From KVUE News in Austin, you're watching Texas This Week with Ashley Goudeau.
Good morning. One story dominated Texas politics this week: the release of a secretly recorded conversation between Texas Speaker of the House Dennis Bonnen and the CEO of Empower Texans, Michael Quinn Sullivan. That's where we'll start with the 3 things you need to know in Texas politics. Sullivan and Bonnen gave very different accounts of what happened, and it turns out Sullivan was the one telling the truth. During the hour-long recording, Speaker Bonnen asked Sullivan to campaign against members of his own Republican Party in 2020 in exchange for media credentials for Sullivan's organization during the next legislative session. The Speaker also had some not-so-nice things to say about some of the members of the House.
And let's go after these Republicans that, and I'm not kidding, when it comes to 2020, if we're successful and we gain maybe 1 or 2 or 3 Republican seats, we beat some of these liberal pieces that took people out, and we maybe flip a couple of these primaries, better ours, kick my if we're not doing a better job. If we can make this work, I'll put your guys on the floor next session.
A small number of bipartisan lawmakers are calling for Bonnen to resign, and that's not his only obstacle. The Texas Rangers are investigating the conversation and will report their findings to the Brazoria County District Attorney. She will determine if there was any criminal wrongdoing. President Donald Trump was stopping in Texas this week. He came to Dallas to host a Keep America Great rally. The president appeared to be in good spirits despite finding out on the flight that his energy secretary, former Texas Governor Rick Perry, is stepping down. Perry was recently subpoenaed by the House committees conducting an impeachment inquiry on the president. And it's time to vote. Texas early voting in the November 2019 election starts tomorrow. Voters will weigh in on 10 state constitutional amendments and several city and county propositions and races. Election day is November 5th, but of course a lot of people are looking forward to the 2020 election and the March primary. 9 Democrats are running to challenge U.S. Senator John Cornyn. One of them, the state senator from Dallas, Royce West, was in Austin recently. We sat down to talk about his campaign. Tell us why you want to make the transition now and run for the U.S. Senate.
I think that I have the ability to be of service to Texas at the national level. I have worked very diligently across the aisle on a multitude of issues here at the state level, and I think I have a lot to offer at the national level now.
You know, other than the obvious differences between you being a Democrat and Senator John Cornyn being a Republican, what is it about his record and his performance thus far that really made you want to challenge him right now?
Well, I think that if anyone, any rational person would kind of look at where we are as a country right now, this is the most divisive I've seen this country since I've been alive. I see that the checks and balances that we have in our government are no longer there. The fact of the matter is that we have a strong executive branch of government that has now co-opted the judicial branch of government, and I believe that the Senate, which John is a part of, has been complicit in what we see as a degradation of our Constitution.
When we think about the issues that are on the minds of Texans, I think there are 2 big ones, and one of the big ones is health care.
Correct.
You know, the U.S. Census Bureau just ranked Texas again as the most uninsured state in the country. The Center for Public Policy Priorities found that 1 in 4 Texans has medical debt. You know, how can we begin to address this?
I think that you've got to kind of look back. And I want you to understand what I'm saying. You've heard the saying, you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Well, I think Republicans, unfortunately, have attempted, as it relates to health care, have attempted to throw the baby out the bathwater just because who its father is. The fact of the matter is, Barack Obama, President Obama, is the father of the Affordable Health Care Act. And you've had Republicans that have kind of resented him, and everything that he's done, they've tried to wipe from the books of Congress and of as regulations and laws in this country. Don't get me wrong, there are problems with the Affordable Care Act. I don't know of any legislation, state legislation, city council rules and regulations that can't be looked at again. There are problems with the Affordable Care Act, but we shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We should try to fix it. And that it takes a bipartisan effort in order to do it. And so I think that as a U.S. Senator, that's exactly what we have to do. You have to also look at when the Affordable Care Act came in, Texas had the ability to get $10 billion, $10 billion per year if we had expanded Medicaid. And there were those of us that understood the issue as to whether or not the federal government would be able to pay that debt, and we would have put language in the bill that basically would have clawed back Texas's obligation if the federal government didn't live up to their obligation. So Texas wouldn't have been out of anything other than expanding Medicaid in order to make certain that we wouldn't be number one on that list, as you just pointed out.
Immigration and securing the border is another big issue for folks here in Texas, particularly when we look at all of the detention centers and what's happening with these detention centers in Texas. There is not a one-size-fits-all fix for this, but where can we start on addressing immigration and securing our border?
Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is we have to secure the border, and securing the border to me means making certain we have the judicial system in place in order to make certain as persons are coming in that they can be adjudicated as expeditiously as possible. I think we've got to continue to work with other countries, Mexico and some of the other Southern American countries, in order to keep people in those countries that we can, under reasonable circumstances, awaiting their entry into this country, or adjudication at least for purposes of coming into this country.
The wall is always a big conversation. President Donald Trump
let me say this. Donald Trump has lied to you about the wall. First of all, he stood up and said that Mexico was going to pay for the wall. Mexico's not paying for this wall. And yes, he's lied to you about it. And so the fact is that is not happening. Americans shouldn't have to be paying for something that this president has said that Mexico was going to be paying for. He's trying to sell us another bill of goods. Period. End of conversation.
The Texas Tribune recently published a report earlier this month about your campaign disclosures. They wrote in it that, quote, you raked in millions in legal fees representing governmental entities. Some see this as a conflict of interest, given the fact that you are a state senator. What's your response to this?
Well, first of all, somebody need to tell my wife where all those millions are, first of all. Let me say this. In Texas, we have a part-time legislature. In terms of the type of practice I have, I'm an attorney. I've been an attorney for 40 years. I was practicing public finance law before I became a state senator. So the very law that they're talking about that I practice is something I did before I became a state senator. And this is not a new story. It seems like every other year it becomes a story, which it's not. And the reality is that I have about 8 to 10 lawyers. Many of them are excellent in terms of the work that they do, and they practice school law and they practice public finance law, and that's what we do.
Do you see this as being a conflict of interest?
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, because the reality is that you have got to make certain that you separate your duties and responsibilities as a state senator and those as a lawyer. Now, if people want to change the way legislators work, then we need to have a full-time legislature, and legislators need to be paid more than $600 a month.
When we look at your race against Senator John Cornyn, he's already launching attack ads at you. What are your thoughts on, he's attacking your record?
Well, I mean, here's the deal. I want Central Texas to understand this, that John Cornyn used to be the Attorney General in the state of Texas. I'm the same person that he's calling liberal. Is he calling me liberal or something like that?
Yes, sir.
I'm the same person that he came to carry his part of his legislative initiatives when he was the Attorney General. He didn't think I was too liberal then. I don't know what's changed now.
Before you can even face Senator Cornyn in an election, you have to win the Democratic primary.
Correct.
You are in a crowded field of Democrats. A lot of people want to take him up. What makes you different? Why should Democratic voters elect you?
Well, I just want Central Texas to know that I have been fortunate, blessed, to have the endorsement of several of the leaders here in Central Texas. Kirk Watson, who's been a state senator here for a brief period of time. But Gonzalo Barrientos, a former state senator. Celia Israel, a state representative here. Jeff Trevelyan, a county commissioner here. I can go on and on. Cheryl Cole, a state representative here, and other elected officials here in Central Texas, persons that you have elected to be your representative and you trust. If you trust their judgment concerning the things that you elected them for, hopefully you will trust their judgment about their endorsement of me as as the next U.S. Senator. In addition, not only have they endorsed me, but of the 12 Democratic state senators, as an example, in the state of Texas, 10 have endorsed me for the U.S. Senate race. Of the 67 House members, Democratic House members, 48 have endorsed me. And so the point is this: those persons aren't just endorsing me just to be endorsing me, because they're accountable to their constituents. They think that I'm the best choice for the Democrats to run for the United States Senate. And the reason that is because you can kind of judge what a person's going to do in the future if you look at what they've done in the past. And if you look at what I've done in the past in the area of criminal justice, in the area of health care, in the area of women's rights, in the area of education, et cetera, you see that I'm the best qualified to serve as a nominee for the Democratic Party.
You can find out more information about Senator Royce West in the Texas This Week section of KVUE.com. That's Texas This Week. Now here's what's coming up at 9 a.m. on This Week.